My MO, I'm steady fighting failure. Remember where I was at when Tower 7 fell? I don't think that was a danger to mankind, and now they face a hell in a cell. Going to see the Undertaker if it's a chance that he tell.
All right. Episode 2 of something I'm very proud of being able to bring together as far as myself, who this, of course, from Something Spectacular, from the Mighty Healthy Podcast, from the YouTube channel, everything I've done so far. This right here is one of my crowning achievements as far as not just being able to talk wrestling, but not the nerdy Mark, hate it, but you still watch it every week religiously and TiVo it, whatever, too, just to shit on it. But now I get to collab with not just a wrestler, but a wrestler I consider a friend, hence the title of the podcast, My Friend, the Wrestler. Episode 2, myself, Who This Again. Catch me on all the socials. Who This Is on IG, Twitter, this, DISS, by the way. Joined every episode by, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, soon to be enough, in the process building as we speak right now. He is none other than from Brooklyn, as we'll also be able to introduce something he'll be able to add on, the third leg, per se, for this episode's sake, Supa Nitro.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on, brother? And the special add-on, Nitro will be able to give his thing properly as far as the socials and the tags and such. But for this episode, the third leg, now we can add on to my friend, the wrestler. The wrestler can add on my brother, who's also a wrestler. Welcome, everybody, JT Riddick.
What's going on, everybody at home? Hope everyone's safe and being sanitized.
And washing your ass. I think that's
where
it started.
Yeah, washing your ass, yes.
Yep.
Starts down there, it keeps progressing up here, and it transfers all over to China. And that's where it all stemmed from, but that's conspiracy talk. So, we can always leave that as a Ventura. So I just wanted to give
of course, again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nacho.
No, just saying, like, piggyback off what you're saying. Yeah, of course, my brother down there, JT Riddick, NEW Tag Champions, of course.
By the way.
Holding them strong.
By the way.
Continuing reign.
Yeah, I mean,
continuing the ring, and when we get back in the ring,
it's just showing up a little bit right here.
Exactly. I was like, I didn't want to be the only one to
Yep.
And we got the t-shirts.
And by the way, they are the NEW Tag Champions. Inaugural, reigning, defending, still undefeated, by the way, as much as you try. Pit Bulls, BX Connection, whoever else, put them in the triple threat, quadruple, or like N64 No Mercy, if y'all remember the 64-man, no DQ, no rope limit, no rope break.
Oh, man.
Tournaments going on there. It's like 2 hours trying to submit everybody. I'm trying to keep that one character back to the end.
Yeah.
Oh, good times. Good times.
And back then you get knocked out, yeah. Good time. Back then you used to get knocked out easier too. You have to really show your skills, because back then 1-2 you out. Now
1-2,
you literally could be in the ring. You could be in the ring for hours, but back then you had to really watch what you're doing. That one mistake, boom, you out.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how much you played like the newer versions, like 2K, whatever, which one, but I hate the reversal system where, to the point I have to have like the screen icons notify me when they hit the reversal, because I can't time it properly. Every move is different, too quick, too slow.
We don't have enough time to talk about when we played one of these 2Ks. Like I'm ready to throw the control out the window with the PlayStation or Xbox, whatever console I'm using.
God, it's bad.
This man over here only played 2K16 and he was ready to break the game. I've been continuously playing the 2K series, and they didn't change a whole lot, but yeah, they didn't change a whole lot.
If I could chime in with my favorite one, I'd probably go with 2K14, because it had the whole WrestleMania showcase and all the arenas.
Yes, that was actually the best one, because it was like you can pick. They picked every major main event of every WrestleMania. Again, the Forbidden Person. It would have been great to have him in there, because he had a great WrestleMania moment too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. Can you imagine what it's like for the guys in the back? Because it's like that's a moment. He was so critical in, the ruthless aggression era, especially that they just mentioned it. Can you imagine if they was able to chime in on him And what he did, he was someone who, you know, was able to put the company, they was able to put the company on his back, although we don't like his reign. But his reign was weak. I'm sorry, my opinion. They gave him a weak reign. But that moment, the 20th anniversary, he and Eddie in the middle of the ring, the confetti, like that was just, so for that to be erased from history, like, can you imagine what that does for Eddie's family? And even like, you know, people who are a fan, because, you know, let's be honest, his story was the original Daniel Bryan story.
Yeah.
So it's like, they tried this. So yeah, so
that's why they changed it.
So they redid it, of course, which is major shouts to Daniel Bryan, because, you know, like, hey, at the end of the day, that's something that touched my heart near and dear, because, you know, I'm only all of 5'9" and 212 pounds. So, of course, you know, going to something like that, being a main eventer and all that, you know, that's still like, so it's still hard for guys like me. So to see them give Daniel that moment, it means a lot. But it's still like, damn, you know, you hate that other moment in WrestleMania 20 was like basically no longer doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because it's essential to the history. I mean, you guys know firsthand because you both are wrestling. You both grew up in that time when you can see firsthand Chris Benoit develop his character from, you know, the silent assassin type from WCW to like even more quieter and more maybe disturbing in WWE because what do they call it, the Rabbit Wolverine and all that such, you really played into it finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy to think. He's definitely, at least for me, still top 3 in the ring of all time.
Oh my God. It's crazy because I have to, to be honest, it's like one of those situations where depending on who hears this, how it may be, how, you know, how they may take it, but hey, I'm entitled to my opinion. He's number 1 for me. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I think I posted a question on my IG, that when it was asked who was my favorite wrestler, and I thought about it and I wanted to say him, but the end all be all is we have to kind of really realize, like, hey, you know, this man did do something that if he was just a regular person that, you know, we would say nothing but nasty things about. So it's kind of like, just out of respect for that, like, you know, I try to limit, you know, of course, speaking about him and speaking about him in a constructive way, which is like, okay, which we're doing now, but it's like, I'll just use a different answer for it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I mean, that guy was years ahead of everyone else who did it, man. I'm just being honest. You go in the ring, put in the wrestling clinic. If you were in the ring with him, he made you better.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about him too was always he made everything he did so real too.
It's so intense.
Exactly, the intensity.
So intense. And that's, like I said, that's me for me is number 1. That's why I thought, like.
No, that was I'm sorry. That's why, like, in 2000, I thought, I don't know, you could say too, bro. Was like, I thought that him and Jericho really hated each other because, like, the way he did it, it was in the ring, like how intense they would battle each other, just them two. I mean, everybody else, you know, he put, like you said, he did his thing with. But when it came to him and Jericho, you would think
him and Jericho had that chemistry. But you know who else he had that chemistry with? Angle.
Kurt Angle.
He and Angle. Oh my gosh, man, those guys
killed each other. Like, each other. Like, to this day. And I think that's what, for me personally, what made Benoit stand out for me more was 2003, because, like they said, going back to the Ruthless, the one thing, like, great about going into speaking of the Ruthless Aggression era, was that it gave the wrestlers that didn't get a chance to wrestle a chance to shine. So when, you know, SmackDown gave, like, Benoit, Guerrero, Edge, you know, like, Mysterio, Kurt Angle, wrestlers a chance, that's when I noticed, oh, shoot, these guys can wrestle. Like, you know, these guys are wrestlers, of course. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I didn't pay attention to them before, which I didn't. It was just when they overshadowed by bigger guys, like I said, you know, The Rock, you know, Triple H, Kane, Undertaker, like the big titans, you know, you're not going to get to see what they can really do, and especially in the main event spot. So when they gave Benoit finally, like, a main event position, or at least a moment, it's great. It's like, wow, this guy has these really great for me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and if you watch not the doc, yeah, well, I guess it's a documentary. The series on WWE Network they said it. SmackDown was the talent. Those guys wrestled. Like, they didn't skip a step or anything of that nature, and, you know, so on and so forth. So that's why. And then just the last point of this, so we can continue with the interview. Another thing that made it so, like, man, like, you felt that moment was the fact that he won the Rumble at, like, the number 2 entry, which is damn near number 1 because you're the first 2 guys in the ring.
Exactly. I mean, memorable times with Benoit.
Yes.
Get that, but I think based off that Dark Side of the Ring episode, well, the 2 episodes are dedicated to him.
I have to watch that. I have not watched that.
It's good. It's good. Even the follow-ups, like the Brawl for All, and I forget what what's his name, New Jack. That was a really good one. I didn't know about New Jack like that, but now I'm scared to even ask him ever if I ever run into him in person, anything, like even what the weather's like around him, because he might just stab.
I was beginning to watch the Montreal Screwjob episode, but I didn't know because I kind of like I'm out of the loop with some stuff because I know I just saw it trending online because Tamina beating Sasha to advance. And everyone in the comment section are like, oh, ever since that Dark Side of the Ring episode came, they're going to try to push her or something. So I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? So that's how okay, I need to do some digging and figure out what is this Dark Side of the Ring thing going? Because it seems like everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, that was insane to see too. Sorry, you were saying that, John?
There's a lot of episodes you missed. Like, no, I was saying that it was a lot of like Mara, like I was telling JT, like the episodes you missed is like. I mean, I watched almost all of them. It was one, the Bruiser Brody one, like on YouTube was like messed up, so I couldn't enjoy that one. I mean, we all know the Bruiser Brody situation, but to watch it from the Dark Side of the Ring concept is like I want to hear. But like you said, like they had the Benoit story, very sad. I mean, of course, very sad.
Yeah, I watched every document. Like I said, this guy for me, like speaking from a very personal bias thing, because this is my all-time favorite wrestler. Like if I'm going in the ring. And I think we all have that wrestler that we watch. Like, okay, who am I going to try to emulate? Like, and it's him. If there's anyone in the ring who I could like, if you ever ask me, hey JT, who do you want when your match is done that they want to compare to? I'm like, if you ever say, hey, that guy reminds me of Benoit as a compliment, that's the greatest compliment you can ever give me. Yeah. That is who like is my goal. For some people, there's Eddie. For some people, there's Jericho. For me, it's Benoit. Like you said, you said that intensity, that man did not cheat anybody. Like you've seen it in the ring because you watch some guys. I know hey, I don't care how much heat this get. Nitro and I were talking about this, and for me, guys like H and Orton, those guys, they cheat you. There's some times where you really be like, okay, your heart wasn't in this match, or you're not as good as your opponent, or something. And it's like I feel like with Benoit, man, he could have got the most greenest kid who just learned to take a bump yesterday and put a clinic on with this guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I started to see now too, at least, a lot of the newer guys, not everybody, of course, but a lot of the newer guys, I hate that we miss out on the illusion of wrestling being at least real within its own realm. Because a lot of guys have so many moves and flips and complicated things going on. You see them when they deliberately set up for something. Or like when anybody takes a frog splash now. Yeah. Like instead of taking the last second to prep or like, I guess, press your chest, they have it set up from like as soon as they start hitting the first turnbuckle to climb up and do it.
Yeah.
Already prepping.
It's frustrating for me because there's one thing like this was a hot take 2 years ago when they bashed the way indie matches are done, and the one thing that I'm like I'm not a person who doesn't do well with criticism if it's honest and warranted, and the thing is and I don't like you say like everything is a spot fest. Everything is like remember the spot, and it's like hey, let's go out there and work, because if we can go out there and convince the fans, because at the end of the day, everybody know. I mean, for God's sakes, kayfabe is even broken now. Like, you'd have a full-blown rivalry with someone, and then they're posting something to each other on Instagram. Like, come on, guys! Like,
yeah, keep saying
that's true.
Like, yeah, it's so aggravated, man.
I'm sorry, hold on.
Go ahead.
Like, even when like me and my brother when we had our rivalry. I try my best not to post anything with him because I wanted our match to build up. Exactly. So I didn't want nobody going, wait a second, isn't that your brother? I mean, we're brothers, but I wanted them to show that we have this heat going on towards each other. So it's like anything that I posted with me and him was on my other personal Instagram because, that's my personal, like, whatever the case may be. But, like, off the strength of my Facebook and my Supa Nitro page, it was like...
Yeah, it's just... You got like there's things, man. Yeah, you have to. You have to. It's one of those things like where I remember growing up watching, and you would be like, "There's no way Triple H and The Rock could be in the same room after what DX did to him, after what DX did to The Rock on Thursday. There's no way that you thinking stuff like that. You like, oh my God, I feel sorry for X-Pac if Kane running him. He took Tori from him. There's no way Kevin Sullivan. Well, this actually is kind of real because Benoit did take Nancy from Sullivan, but before then." Before I got to that point, there's no way that they could be in a room with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like those are the ones that you remember those, and there's like those guys, and they're actually like really good friends. Like okay, like Rock and Austin when they were feuding, those guys are like closest brothers. Even Rock and H, like those guys, same thing. Rock, Austin and Triple H. God, those guys, all right. There's some rivalries that you're like, okay, you could tell it's like it's a work. Then there's some rivalries you're like, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like Austin and Triple H was one of those. Same thing with Triple H and Jericho. But I'm sorry, we can talk wrestling for days.
I mean, you do it for a living, and eventually full-blown living, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You know your facts, you know your history. From my childhood, as far as getting into wrestling, since I was like 5 or 6, as a viewer, as a fan, you guys are actually living the dream, which I had at one point, but then I just thought I'm too clumsy to get in the ring, so I'm not even going to bother. I can't handle balls properly, so no way I'm going to even have the footwork like you guys have to have as a first prerequisite, but it would have been awesome to eventually hear the new, as it used to always hit for a brand new champion, which in a time back then was rare to get a new champ. Everybody used to have these things called reigns that would last a while and then switch over or hand over the mantle. But you guys, please feel free to chime in on what you remember from, again, RIP Howard Finkel.
Oh, man. Like they discussed earlier, just his in-ring announcements, like our brother said earlier, like his announcement to whether your winnings, or just introducing you to the ring, or even introducing it was 2003 Royal Rumble, if I'm not mistaken, where he was introducing the steps to the match, the rules to the match. I'm sorry, like what's going to be happening, what's going to go on, and it was just listening to him. Just like you said, you could just listen to him speak all day. But it was funny because Jerry was just like, all right, Howard, all right, like, shut up, we get the rules already. But it was just listening to him just, go over the rules and matches. It's like, it was just hilarious because that stood out to me because I remember how Jerry just, like, bashed him, like, all right, Howard, shut up. Like, we know what's going on.
For me, it's definitely, it's a combination of two things. It's the editing, like whoever edits because my favorite thing is when you hear him announce, and the way the camera will zoom out. So like if you either win the title or you zoom out. So just bear with me for a second. Like when you got anyone walk into the ring, and like for me, I just watched WrestleMania 17 a couple of days ago, and you hear it. It's like on his way to the ring from Victoria, Texas, and the way the camera zooms out, it's like it makes it like Howard is speaking to the heavens. Like his voice is just echoes that much. It's that powerful. And then the same thing, like I remember watching WrestleMania 2000, and when Edge and Christian won the tag titles in the ladder match, and it's like, winner of the match, and is it 2000? I can't remember. Whatever one they won, and they were the new champions. And of course, that when he echoes like new, it's like the equivalent of Michael Buffer's "Let's get ready to rumble." It's the same thing. And it's like and new, and the way the camera zooms out, you see the cameras flashing and the celebration. Like it's just. I tweeted this when he passed, and I said his voice is and will forever be WWF and WWE. And, with all due respect to everyone else who's come after him, no one has had that effect besides, to my opinion, Tony Chimmel. Tony Chimmel is the second, is number 2. When you hear Tony's voice, you're like, and then lastly, like, I know I said 2, but lastly is for, like we said, watching those matches and hearing him announce it, it really sent chills down your spine. Like, this is a big fight, Phil. For me, I remember Judgment Day 2000, a 60-minute Iron Man match, Backlash, like Austin coming back. Like, all of those matches just made you feel like this is like heavyweight, like the world stopped. Like, it just seems like, oh man, like JR ad-libbing saying, oh, this is a slobber knocker today. Just one of those things, like it's all of those things just tie into each other.
Exactly. And those things are essential as far as they always say, commentary, the whole build up to an actual story and how they present it is essential to each match, even if it's like an ongoing thing. It matters. It adds on to it instead of nowadays too much of just like promoting this company, this upcoming thing, this film, or who's coming through the guest star or whatever, or Gronkowski so much. I was sick of that part a lot. Like he didn't add anything to it for me, at least.
He really didn't.
No, he didn't really contribute much. Nothing useful.
Some just
just
don't
a brief little spot for the 24/7 title, which has gone, to trash.
And even that, I don't know, man. Maybe because you say we do it, and it's like everything is in the detail. And even if it's one of those things like again, thinking WrestleMania moment, even if it was a WrestleMania moment where I know we were limited, but sometimes less is more, because if you do too much, you lose the believable aspect of it, So for like a little line like that to take out R-Truth is like, okay, I mean, granted, we don't take R-Truth serious as a worker, which we should, because that man can work his ass off. It kind of pisses me off. It pisses me off what he's downgraded to me. He's entertaining. Yeah, I get he's got the E concept, but he also has the middle W concept. He can wrestle his ass off, and it's like they know they don't, they're like, hey, you're the entertainer. We're going to keep you as the entertainer, which annoys the hell out of me. But at least, like I said, less is more. Because the proper thing, if I were booking Mania, is one of those things like, let Gronkowski come to the ring, do whatever. You're a football player. Do the most generic, every football player's finisher. Fucking running tackle because it's believable. You're a full-blown NFL player. You're going to knock him on his ass, and you got the 3-second win. A weak freaking line, and then it goes down for a 10 count. I'm like, come on, guys. And then the camera was terrible because it was zoomed in, so you could see everything. And it's like, I don't know.
Might as well retitle the roll-up championship, because everybody gets beat with a roll-up. It's like the roll-up they can't kick out of somehow. It's like gravity takes over. No one's flexible. No one work their core. They can't kick out of it at all. I mean, you guys will know. You'd have to work your core properly to kick out of a roll-up.
Exactly.
Right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everyone's gone to school and they know how to kick out a roll-up, except unless you're defending the 24/7 to Eddie.
I know, right? We should work a segment like that. Like, what are you doing? I'm working on my core. What? Kick out the roll-up.
Don't play 24/7 title. I got to work on it.
Exactly.
I mean, there's also the fact that WWE, of all things, got deemed essential business, at least in Florida, because they got a whole different set of rules down there. I don't know if you've ever been to Florida, guys, but I've been there once, and it was more than enough to know, like, this is a whole new world.
Yeah, or somebody needs a nice check for his campaign. Did I say that out loud?
That too.
Ooh. Like, listen.
But then that led into, days separated from being deemed essential and seeming like they had the green light to go ahead and do the thing as long as they had to, comes all these releases, which, the list is long. As we record, it's ongoing. It just keeps adding up, piling up as far as main roster, NXT, producers, directive staff, and all that too. Does anybody that you know of as of now stand out to you that surprised you at all, or just like, damn, why him, why her?
The biggest surprise to me, surprise-wise, was definitely Mike Chioda. And when I'm thinking about talent, is EC3 and Rusev. Everyone else, I looked at it, I was like, okay, this I've seen this happen anyway. But those ones specifically, because like who I'm upset that they did was Anderson and Gallo, because AJ's getting a lot of steam. And they're bringing them back together basically. Like first, that's how they came out. They were AJ. Then they broke up in a little bit, and then they came back. And I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, as you now see, if anyone's watched the Ruthless Aggression thing, Vince isn't really big on factions. So I guess that's why, even if it's big, it's at the end of the day, he's the boss. And if that's not really his thing, then I guess he's not really trying to push it. But I just felt like WWE just didn't know what to do with them. They didn't. Like, those guys were becoming like one of the hottest tag teams from New Japan Pro, and then they get WWE, and they're just like, okay, you're gonna be cool for a month, and then you're gonna be a joke the rest of the year. I think they've been in the company again for like 3 years now at this point, 3-4 years. So so damn, I'm not surprised. Kurt Angle is kind of like a blessing in disguise. Just like as a diehard Kurt fan, Kurt is one of my top threes. It's hard to see him in the ring because you want to see him more for I guess, how can I put, like, what I remember him as, and I don't think enough time has passed for him to pick up like a Gerald Briscoe, Pat Patterson role, like what they were for the Attitude Era. Because Kurt, when you still think of Kurt, 10 years ago, he still was having like phenomenal matches, no pun intended, with AJ. He was still, killing it with Sting. So it's still so recent versus like maybe in another 10 years, God willing, his health is still good, he could come back as a manager and, like where the youngins are like, oh man, who is this guy? You're like, who's Kurt Angle? Like we can have that conversation versus now it's like Kurt just wrestled a couple years ago. So I think for him, I'm like, it's one of those things I'm like, it's good on your part because it's hard now seeing these guys who I idolize and were like gods in the ring and now are showing that they're actual mortals.
It'd be funny though playing with that angle thing, that angle you proposed, Riddick, because like imagine some new guy comes in, debuts like, who's Angle? Who's that guy? They keep talking. He's like a 90-degree thing. He comes through the back, just like takes a chair to the back and puts him in the ankle. I was like, who's Angle? Who's Angle? Ask your Angle. I'll tell you right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a freaking Angle. It's true. I was thinking, Finley. Because like they let Finley go, I was like, wow.
Oh, Finley! I didn't even know they let him go. See, and that's another surprise because he was amazing in the back. He's trained old. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Finley. Shoot, Zack Ryder. Kurt Hawkins. They let him go too.
That's the second time though, right?
Yes, the Kurt Hawkins the second time. See, and Ryder, to my opinion, I don't know. I have no insight. I don't know anybody in the back, but my opinion with a guy like Ryder, I feel like they wanted to let him go for the longest, but the fact that he just kept getting himself over, it was like, crap, we can't do it. So it's kind of like a bad relationship where it's like they don't want to break up with him for the longest, but he keeps buying them nice gifts, and they're like, damn it, not now. It's I'm be a complete asshole if I break up with you now. So now they was like, all right, you didn't. Yep, there's like, wait, you didn't buy me nothing in the month? Yeah, it's over. I can't deal with this anymore.
That's it.
So
yeah, baby. Damn. And then who else? Like you said, Leo Rush.
Leo Rush. I saw the Leo Rush one coming.
I did too. I saw that.
The attitude he had.
I just didn't expect it soon enough, but hey,
Yeah, that's what I said. Like for me, like to answer the question, being surprised at a lot of those are not surprised. Like I said, Anderson and Gallows, I could tell they didn't see anything with them. They probably bought them thinking like, hey, maybe we can get the New Japan fans here who love them over there, which WWE kills me because it's like, you guys want to,
hold on. What killed me? Hold on. Let me chime in. Like you said, Vince basically hates that he doesn't create you. You know what I'm saying? He hates that your popularity comes from somewhere else. So then he wants to milk you from that popularity, but change you in his image. But I'm like, then when the fans don't buy into it, then it's like a whole, you see, nobody likes you. That's because you changed me from what the fans like in the first place.
It's like the same, to my opinion, it's the same concept for, everyone knows I'm a big basketball fan. It's like the same concept of, if they want you to look like you lost a step, your game isn't as good, they put you in these situations where you don't look the same. Like they put you in these, like, okay, like if you're a shooter or a scorer, they're like, okay, we're going to bench you, and then we're going to put you in the last 5-7 minutes of the game when it's really close or we're losing, and we want you to get a spark off the bench. And I was like, that doesn't work that way. The guy's got to get hot. He's got to play a little bit so he can do that. But it's like, but they're going to collect all that footage and be like, damn, man, you lost it. You don't got it no more. Versus that, and that's exactly what Vince does. It's like he always is like, yeah, you're right. It really, that's just my opinion watching as a fan, like taking the wrestler aspect of it as a fan. It's like, you take these guys, you want to capitalize off this of them, but you put them in a situation where it doesn't work. This isn't what got them over on, on why they were able to be successful. But
stripping them of the essence.
Yeah,
it's crazy to do because exactly. Vince has been known to be that petty, I guess, no other better word to categorize it by if you're big over there, I don't believe so much he hasn't heard of, like, let's say AJ, for example, like what he did in TNA, whatever, everywhere else, in Japan and all that. Like, he'll just either purposely not watch you, who you are, keep his eye on you. I don't know how much I can really believe that, because there's like too many stars that did their own thing elsewhere. All of a sudden they come to WWE, and then it's like, well, I don't know who you are, pal. Show me who you are out there, and we'll just
and they love. And then I can really chime in even on this, because it frustrates me, because if you notice now, the guys are disrespecting the indies so much more. And I remember, and it's funny because I want something just resurfaced, which was when Randy and Bubba, or Bully Ray, whatever you know him as, got into it about, something that happened 2 years ago, and they basically were bashing the indies. And it pisses me off, because it's like, what is your problem? Like, the WWF was an indie promotion. So, and that's the same thing where you getting all your talent from, same thing where you're getting all those spots from. So it's like, and then Randy made the comment one time about, he made this comment, the typical WWE Mark comment, like, oh, this is the big boy stuff. I'm like, dude, you shut up, because you were blessed into this. You're like, you got the silver spoon, guy. Like, if you're anybody else, it's like, look at Zack Ryder. If Randy could get himself over with his own talent the way Zack Ryder could, it's like he would definitely be unstoppable. But of course, but look at the way, like I said, they don't like Zack, so they've been like, giving him their ass to kiss his whole time, like a joke of a run. And that man has got himself over time and time again. Yeah. So yeah, but it's like it's like they don't, like you said, it's like Vince, like if he doesn't create you in his own image, it's like it is frustrating, because like all these guys who they can, like, the reality of it is, man, it's like, you won, so why are you still competing as if you gotta win? It's like, you can create talent, because at the end of the day, guess what? You make the rules, like whether we like it or not. We talk like, okay, we're saying all this stuff, but of course, if we get a phone call tomorrow, hey, Dynasty, we want you guys to, we want to give you a contract, we're going to seriously look at it, and we're probably going to sign it, because at the end of the day, say what we want. We just talked about Fink. We just watched Mania. We just talked about, I've quoted several things from WWE, Ruthless Aggression, so on and so forth. That's what we all grew up watching. But it's like, no one's telling you, if you put us on TV and you tell the fans it's cool to watch us, it's cool to enjoy us, they're going to listen. That's why I've never understood that whole, oh, you're not good for business, so on and so forth. Don't get me wrong. There's some people with the personality of like watching paint dry. That's different. But if you've got it and you can cut a promo and you can get the fans behind you, all you need is the time to do it. And, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And I mean, we're living proof now. We're living in the proof now of Vince being, again, I hate to keep saying petty, but just insistent on his own mannerisms, or just living up to the character of, there's nothing, no chance in hell per se that he's not going to do what he wants, as far as keeping live shows going, doing his thing as he wants. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, if I didn't already, I apologize, but Money in the Bank now being supposedly transferred over to headquarters, and I think I read it right, I'm not sure, it might either be completely on the rooftop of WWE headquarters, or they're going to have to literally go through the whole building to get to the briefcase at the top of the roof, and we might get like another Boneyard match-esque kind of feel or match for that.
At least we get like a movie scene out of it, like getting something. WWE, at least one thing we can give them credit on is that like they're literally like being creative on how to do things, especially with the situation that's going on. Like, they're being creative. They're like, all right, how can we keep the fans at least entertained while we're going through this crisis? Like, they're coming up with ideas. They're not just being like,
they're not sitting on their
lame. Yeah. Not being
but
lame.
Sometimes I feel like, oh man, I don't know. I feel personally that there's just, they've got so much material, so much merchandise, so much. I feel like something like this could be a blessing in disguise, where it's like, one, to be, what they say all the time, these guys on the road 300 days a year, sometimes 330 days a year. It'd be nice to let them, stay home with their families and just really just, hopefully not end up all in divorces, because, but they could stay home. They could stay home with their family. They could rest their wounds, because, at the end of the day, I'm quite sure there are many superstars who have like a nagging injury that's just, they're like, I can keep working past it. to really recharge your batteries, really get, a good set, really take your time, because there are some things that can be done in silence and some things that just can't. Like, for my opinion, just, I know we said we were going to talk about Mania, but I feel like what really hurts the most is all Mania moments is gone. What Mania is this? I lost count. What are we at? 30 what?
36.
Which one is it? This is 36. So WrestleMania 36 has no WrestleMania moments. And when I say that is Drew McIntyre. There's nothing like that to me, that's the dream, man. That's the dream. It's like, yeah, dream is WrestleMania winning the tag titles from my bro. But then afterward, the cliche, win the tag titles, feud, mid-card title, then you finally earn that Rumble win and win at Mania. There's nothing like that sequence. So for McIntyre to win the Rumble and then to win at Mania, it's like you want the confetti and the fireworks and all that stuff going on. So like the fact that he doesn't have it, I just feel like, you guys could have waited. There's, you could have, at the end of the day, you guys could have waited, that what's going on. The whole world know what's going on. So like if we were given, like if it's like, okay, everything goes back to normal, let's say September we can now host big events, so on and so forth. I don't know how much the contracts is worth. I don't really know, because apparently the world says millionaires are the most evilest motherfuckers in the world. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse or not. But if I don't know, Mania was supposed to be held in like in Tampa Bay, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they could have honored that contract. Like, hey, I don't know if you guys got anything going on the third Sunday in September, but can we move this contract from here to here? They could have at least done it there and given those wrestlers what they've earned and worked their asses off their whole careers for. Because for my opinion, I feel like it would piss me off, like, to no end if, like, hey, Dynasty, you guys are finally getting a match at Mania, tag titles versus New Day or whoever's a champion, and you're going over. If we know that far in advance, and then it's like, okay, this whole thing happens. Like, hey, if you can just put it on hold. Just put it on hold till to have that moment. For me, as a kid watching, growing up, hearing, seeing the crowd, all that stuff, and for you to take that away just because you want to be greedy, is like that to me would really like piss me off, because we all know how wrestling works. You can win the title this year at WrestleMania and next year not even be on a card and fired the year after. Whereas
that's true. Yeah.
Where you're like, weren't you just champion? Now you're not even on the card and now you're fired? Like, so Lord knows when any of those people are going to get that moment again. Or even if they're going to get that moment again.
It's funny. I was talking to what's the name about it? Who this? Remember I was mentioning to you, like, when I was there like a month ago, 2 months ago, like, it's going to suck that Drew McIntyre's moment, he's not going to have a good moment, because the moment he wins is like, he's happy. It's like there's nothing to celebrate. He could celebrate, but I was just talking to him. I was just talking to Watt about this like earlier, bro. I was just talking to him about it like 2 months ago when we did, just 2 months ago. Like, it's going to suck because that was the main one where I'm like, we knew Drew was going to win, and it's like, but it sucks that how he's going to win it. It's like, yay.
We'd be lucky if the cameraman applauded, or somebody scattered around it.
Exactly. So it just and that's why for me, that's why I say I hated the Boneyard match off of little things, because one, I hated that it was done like a movie. They could have done the same thing. They could have, I don't know, they apparently got a lot of money. They could have probably found a room in a performance center and just, here, we're going to do it that way, like the way they did it. Basically, like the way they did it, they could have continued it, but kept it like a real match, not like the theatrics and the camera. And I'm like, guys, you're killing me with this. And then number two, like, I'm big into entrances. Entrances, in my opinion, is what make WrestleMania. That's why they got the tanks and the fireworks and the pyros and the backflipping midgets and the confetti. They got all of that stuff. So, black little people. I don't know if I offended anyone, but
I don't know what to call them at this point anyway. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's I need a politically correct dictionary so I can know what's the right thing to say. But anyway, with that being said, for me, the fact that American Badass Undertaker, that's the Taker I was introduced to. I'm not going to sit down and pretend like I watched back, when he was a phenom from 90 to 99. I didn't see that Taker. I wasn't watching pro wrestling at the time. So I got introduced Judgment Day
You
2000
weren't
when he
at the
came
time,
back.
were you?
I was.
You were. Okay.
I was. I got introduced to Undertaker Judgment Day 2000 when he came and interfered in the 60-minute Iron Man match, and he was at that time. That's when he did the American Badass gimmick. So for me, I'm like, that would have been awesome. So like I said, just think it again. WrestleMania moment, big stadium, big arena. You hear the music hit, which there's nothing like the pop when an entrance theme hit and the crowd goes nuts. So the fact that Taker was already working toward heading in that direction was like, we saw it coming. But to see that, because it's funny, because my opinion, I feel like Taker is like, hey, do whatever you want. Like, I feel like he's got that green light, just do whatever he wants to, Whereas like, hey, you can cut a promo as Dead Man, the Phenom, whoever you want to. So for that confirmation, like, like ding, 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 following concert schedule for 1-4, it's a Boneyard Grave match, whatever. AJ comes out, moment, wait, and we're expecting the room to go dark, and you just hear his entrance hit, the Phenom, the Dead Man entrance hit. I think that would have been like such a moment, such a WrestleMania moment. And then him getting on that motorcycle, just going down, and I think it still could have. Taker and Styles could have still had that salvageable match, because it's basically would have been a fight, no bumps involved, no nothing. It would have been the same thing without the theatrics of a movie, and it could have still had the same effect. I just wish, like I kept saying, it's like, what did it hurt you? Because I feel like this WrestleMania hurt. Hey, maybe I could be in the 20%, 80%, could be like, oh my God, this is awesome. But I feel like if I am in the 80%, I'm like, what would it have hurted you to hurt you? I don't even know that was English. To wait a few months where you can have people there, because that's what makes it. That's why we do it, because pretty much all that was just a glorified backyard wrestling show.
You could say that in a sense. I'm not going to take that away from you at all. It was glorified, B-movie horror at best, kind of like, if anything, if they released that match alone as a WWE film production in like theaters as a like lead into something bigger, that'd be the best film ever.
Yeah, that would have been the awesome, like if if that was like basically a promotion run for like a Walking Dead scene when Rick fought Negan. Then it's like, okay, it's awesome, it works, just they could have had zombies in the background. That would have been walkers in the background. That would have been cool. But the fact I'm like, no, this is actually a WrestleMania match. I'm like, serious? Is the WWE getting into contract with AMC to film WWE Walking Dead? No? Then what the hell are we doing?
Oh, but don't you think though? I haven't watched Walking Dead in like seasons. I haven't caught up to date.
Me neither. That's why I said Negan, because that's the last thing I watched when Negan killed Glenn.
Yeah,
Glenn.
I like fell off just before Negan, so I didn't really even see that develop. But don't you think Taker, of all people in the WWE universe, would be perfect fit for The Walking Dead? He knows.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Most definitely.
Most definitely.
He could tombstone everybody easily, but then he risks getting bitten in the kneecaps or something, then turning himself. And that's a big ass Walker.
Yeah.
So that's why he'll
somebody that size of a Walker.
That's why he'll just use his urn.
This shouts out, by the way, and rest in peace to Paul Bearer too. I remember. I love Taker when he was with him. Even in the early 90s stuff, I'm older, obviously, so I grew up watching that, like the tail end of that. Paul Bearer walking out, oh, my Taker.
Yeah,
right. Well, that's like you said. That's if it wasn't for Paul Bearer, I don't know how long. Who knows how long Taker would have lasted as long as he did, because Paul Bearer made him, made him and made Kane, of course, made his storyline progress, made his career progress off of just him alone. And and there's also how many times, Paul Bearer brought the Undertaker back, with the urn, I'm, again, like you said, just watching documentaries, and if you're looking at putting things together and watching clips of the past, you go, oh, okay, this is what happened. Like you said, me and JT, we just watch our encyclopedias of wrestling to understand what we're watching. What we're talking about. Like, oh, okay, so this is what happened. This is how it happened. That's what happened. Okay, cool. Like, that way we, instead of us marking from the 2000s, we can go back to 93, 94, 90, even the 80s, off the strength of, because we just doing our history lesson. Like, oh, okay, this is what happened. This is how it went down.
And I think we're going to deep dive into Taker, pause, as far as the legacy goes, like where he goes from here and everything too. But just before we do that, and because I gotta go grab my charger. That reminds me of, I forget which Rumble it was. Taker, I think it was Taker and Yokozuna. All the bad guys came in. Jim Cornette came in with the tennis racket and started whacking him too. And like, it took all of them to like, I think, bury him alive. They like took the casket, they set it aflame. Undertaker died, supposedly. Had a whole pre-cut promo video package in the back. I'll be back from the dead eventually, whatever. My spirit's traveling up to heaven, which it shows Taker's a Christian, so. And then I think that led into the double Taker angle, like in '94 or something like that, which is just so.
Oh, when he brought back the other Taker, and then like Taker versus Taker.
Gloves versus purple glove Taker, like
that was like '94.
It might have been 94, 95, give or take. I can't remember offhand, but that's just like the suspending the realism of the real world and just deep diving into wrestling, where this guy, he's already of the dead. He died. He went to heaven, came back somehow eventually, and then fought his clone that came to take his place and name, which I think was Kane actually back then, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think it was somebody else. I don't think it was
somebody else, right?
Yeah, it was somebody else. Because Jacob has this face. He has this look like he has a Frankenstein look. So you could tell who he was. You could tell him, and that wasn't him. It wasn't him.
Okay. So yeah, it might have been some other big guy, but I wish I knew who that was too, because they got the size, everything just right, even the body type. Like it was his legit clone, just with like the hair in front of the face.
Mm-hmm. I just heard that match was shitty though.
Oh,
I heard that match was just terrible.
The build-up was, I mean, for the times, great. As far as how they killed off Taker, literally at that last match he had, they burned the casket and all that too with him in it. But yeah, the match itself, Taker versus Taker, was no good. I think it was '94 that happened. I want to say, like, it might have been SummerSlam. I think.
You know what's funny? Like they said too, because Taker to like dive on this, like to go into this topic real quick of Taker, is like his gimmick. They didn't take his gimmick serious. They were just figuring, a gimmick that is just going to die out within like 2-3 years. Nobody going to care about this no more. So it's like
think how.
Yeah, like how, like you said, like how.
Yeah, like how can you take a supernatural gimmick real, because it's like, okay, at the end of the day, it's like, does this guy really speak to dead people? All that stuff. Like, how do you take it serious? And we are what? We're 30 years later, and we're still taking it very serious.
Exactly. Like, he's the only one who can still use a gimmick. He's literally still technically a gimmick and get over. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, not even Kane. Kane couldn't, like, Kane also is a gimmick, but it's the way how Kane was that it worked for him too, but not like Taker. Like, Taker will still get 10 times the pop more than Kane. You know what I'm saying? And Kane is just, I guess eventually his scars were more mental than physical, because, everybody was like, what happened to your face? I thought your face was all burnt up. But no, his scars was more than a physical. But like Taker literally is like a god wizard, and it's like his gimmick literally, that's why he's a legend himself, because like forever, like he
is the
that's
legend.
Why he he's the legend. Like, to be the phenom and to like you let that gimmick last for years, it's like there's nobody greater than that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, his gimmick lasted for like 20 plus years. Like, yeah, he went to American Badass because he went to American Badass. He switched it because I'm not sure how true this story is, but I think like he was in a negotiation with contract with WWF at the time, and I think he was going to go to WCW. So he changed. He was going to be Mark
Calloway.
Mark at WCW. Calloway, yeah, just the American Badass, Mark Calloway, but in WCW. That's why I think like he came with that change also. And then also too, I heard like other things where like the persona was getting to him, the demon stuff was getting to him. So, it's like whichever story you want to believe.
I mean, at that time, that what was it, Corporate Ministry Taker? That was pretty like heavy, like for anybody.
Oh yeah, that was. I was like, all right, so to satanic.
Maybe that's what made
it was probably.
Yeah, it was like this man's doing chants and prayers, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, they were
I
speaking.
think that's what. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's when he was speaking the pig Latin. He was gonna do that thing to Austin with the big spike down his chest, whatever.
Yeah.
And imagine having
probably
to
woke
that
up one day and was like, oh no.
I mean, imagine he's a Christian now, I think, converted. So imagine if the guy wanted to be a dick, the minister, like playing all that stuff back, like, are you sure you repented for this yet? And all that. And there's still one more thing, whatever, when you try to crucify Stephanie McMahon and to everybody else. And what he tried to do something crazy with the Big Show, I think, right? During that time, like, I think he tried to stab him too or something, or
I don't know. All I know is it was crazy. I remember WrestleMania was it 15? He freaking hung Boss Man like as a sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah, that right there.
I was watching it and I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I was like, what happened here? And I think it feeds into the story of it was starting to get to him too much. So that's probably why he's like, I'm gonna take a break from this because I'm like, this is becoming too crazy for me.
Yeah, like I know I'm a dead man, but I do still have a soul, like legit. So man, let me try to salvage that right now.
My MO, I'm steady fighting failure. Remember where I was at when Tower 7 fell? I don't think that was a danger to mankind, and now they face a hell in a cell. Going to see the Undertaker if it's a chance that he tell.